Hi. Okay, let's do a little video here on eyelashes. Okay, what I want to start with here is I want to show you a picture, that I've taken out of one of the Jumeau Theriol's catalogs. And what I want you to do is find I enclosed some pictures of the antique Tete Jumeaus in your workbook, but you can also find some good resources for some really nice pictures in some of the antique doll books. This one's a very nice picture of a Tete Jumeau, and I've made just a black and white copy of it. I want to teach you how to actually read the picture, so when you go to paint by it, you can decipher the picture a little bit better and understand the slant of the eyelashes and the shape of the eyebrows and the placement of the brows and the mouth and all that. So I'm hoping this little drawing will help you some. Okay, so I'm going to take this picture, and I've got, get the camera situated here. I've got just this little ruler. You can use just a small ruler. This is one of those doll eye scales. I want you to take and use the little ruler and take like the first eyelash that's right at the corner of the eye there. Continue and draw over that eyelash. Make it longer and see where it comes out at the cheek. If you look at this, it's pointing kind of right to the middle of the cheek. Okay, so if you take and put your first eyelash on, if you continued it out and followed the path, is it pointing down towards the corner of the mouth, or is it pointing out here towards the center of the cheek? Okay, so we're going to make some more lines here. About every fifth or sixth eyelash, I'm going to continue out the line so I can see just exactly where they point to. By the time I get out here to the corner, they're actually going straight out to the ear. Since she's got her wig on, I can't actually see where it's landing on the ear, but it's out here, pointing straight out, going to the ear. Okay, now I'm going to do the other side here. I'm going to start with the first one at the tear duct. Going to go in 5 or 6 eyelashes, draw out another one, go in a little bit farther, draw out another one, go over here all the way to the corner, and you'll see, hopefully you can still see these on there. And you noticed also, can you see how they both point? Those corner eyelashes are pointing straight out to the ear. Okay, let's do a few on the upper eyelashes now. First one at the tear duct is there. Then we've got one over here. One here, one there. Then I'll go ahead and go to this side. Got one there, go down a few over here, and then by the time I get all the way to over here, they're pretty straight out. Okay. So hopefully you can see all those drawings on there. Now what that tells me just at a glance is while I'm painting my eyelashes, I can glance at this drawing and be able to see whether the track of my eyelashes is following the antique as to where the tips are pointing, as to what portion of the cheek, where it's pointing out towards the ear. It's just an easy way to glance at that picture, and it helps my mind focus on the slant of the eyelashes. Okay, a few other things you can do, like when you're working on the shadow brow, it'll help if you take and run a line right along the outside edge of the nose on both sides. Oops, my ruler moved on me. Okay, and that one just kind of helps you see, you know, in relationship as to where this shadow brow starts and stops in relationship to, you know, the edge of the nose, the corners of the eyes. Same way with this one. It just helps you to understand the picture and actually see what's there. Same way with the mouth. That'll give you some guidelines as to how far out to make your corners. You know, it helps you to tell whether the head is warped. You know, a lot of the original antique sculptures, the heads were very warped. They were not, you know, true. So this just helps you figure all this out, and it's much easier to, you know, do the placement of all these parts. Okay, so once you've got that done and you've got an idea where you're going with your eyelashes, then I use a Sealy's green tip brush. I actually have two of them here. Now both of these, they're the regular green tip brushes, but these are well-used ones. I have had these brushes for probably 18 years. Any doll that I've painted in the last 18 years, I've applied the eyelashes with one or the other of these brushes. I have one trimmed really, really small to where there's only a few hairs left in it, and that's what I normally use for eyelashes. And then I have one that's a little bit thicker, and that's what I use for the eyebrow hairs. Now, in order to trim a brush, because as far as I'm concerned, when you buy a brush like this, it still has too many hairs in it. I don't currently have one here I can trim. I did it already for tonight's class. But I'm going to take a dry brush that's not been dampened with water or has any paint or anything in it. And I'm going to start by pulling down a few little hairs on this side. Then I'm going to take the little manicure scissors and I'm going to cut those off clear down to the base. Okay, then I'm going to turn the brush, pull a few hairs down from this side, trim them off clear down at the base. Then I'm going to turn it, pull a few hairs down from this side, cut them off. I'm going to work my way all the way around the brush so I'm cutting it evenly from all sides. I don't want to just take the brush and cut off all the hairs on one side. I want the hairs to be trimmed from all the way around. After I get all the way around, if I think I still have a few too many hairs in there, I'm going to go back and go around again until I get it the size that I want. But I like a very, very thin brush for eyelashes. I also like longer bristles. Like this green tip brush is actually what they call their brow 2 brush. But besides eyebrow hairs, I also use it for eyelashes. Sealy's blue tip brush, which is actually called the eyelash brush, I use for accent lines on the mouth and lines similar to that, but I don't particularly care for it for eyelashes. I like a longer bristle brush that I can get more paint in and apply a line without having to reload as often. Okay, so I've got a head here. Now this paint has been mixed. This is my French eyelash paint, and it is mixed with medium number 1 of Karen Buttagee's. And what I actually have on the tile that I'm going to run my brush through is magic medium. So the paint was mixed with medium number 1 to a pretty thin consistency. It's actually pretty thin, but I'm going to thin it down even more when I start painting here with my magic medium. Okay, I want you to pick a spot out on the tile. Find you a path. that you're actually going to work in here. Okay, let me rinse my brush out here. Now I'm going to dip over here in the magic medium. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to start a little path over here that I'm running my brush through. I'm going to continue to use the same path. Each time I'm drawing out a little bit more paint from my puddle, I'm pulling it out through my path and loading my brush. Okay, I don't want to go in the paint and then blot off and make all these little chicken scratches all over the tile. I want to be loading from this same path here. Okay, I know this is going to be difficult to see, but in the workbook that you've already been sent on the other CD, there's going to be some clear pictures of the eyelashes. But let me go ahead and we'll see what we can do here. Okay, I'm taking my brush that's been loaded with paint. I start with lower eyelashes first at the inside corner by the nose. You know, this is the routine that I follow. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do this. This is what works the best for me. So I'm starting at the inside tear duct right here and moving to the outer edge. And I'm doing lower lashes first. When I start the lower lash, I'm actually taking the brush tip. I'm inserting about 1/3 of the brush into the eye hole. I'm finding my spot on the eyelid where I'm going to start my first eyelash. I'm going to lay the brush on there. I'm going to actually push in just a little bit, and then I'm going to pull back and drag the tip down for my first eyelash there. Not sure if you can see that or not. Okay, so let me do this again. I'm going to lay the brush in there on the eyelid with about 1/3 of the brush inserted into the eye hole. I'm going to lay the brush down. I'm going to push in slightly and then draw the brush back, letting the hair pull it. Okay, now I actually went over it twice. I'm going to lay the brush on there. You know, if it doesn't pull out long enough, I can actually go back in, reconnect it, and then drag the tail out a little bit farther. So it might actually take me 2 strokes to get that eyelash as long as I want it. So same thing again, laying the tip of the brush on the edge of the eyelid, equal space from the last eyelash, push in a little bit, draw that tip down. If it's not long enough, I'm going to go back, reconnect it, pull it down again. So now I've got 3 eyelashes made. Okay, it's trying to focus on it, but I'm not sure it can go that small. Okay, one thing you need to know is a good rule of thumb is your eyelashes should be approximately 1 millimeter apart. Okay, let's say if this particular head, the Tete Jumeau that we're using, needs to end up being either an 18 millimeter to a 20 millimeter eye is what's going to fit in there. So on this head, a good rule of thumb is about 17 to 19 eyelashes. I believe on mine, when I did it, there was 18 on the bottom and 17 on the top, which is going to be just about right for the size of the eye if I want my eyelashes spaced about 1 millimeter apart. If you're copying a picture of an antique doll, unless you know the exact size of that doll, don't, just count the eyelashes and figure that's how many you need, because that picture could be a 30-inch doll and you're only making an 18-inch doll. You don't want the same number of eyelashes on your 18-inch doll that might be in the picture of the 30-inch doll. So unless you know the size of that doll, don't assume that's what you need, as far as the number of lashes go. So instead, go by the size of your eye. If it's a 20 millimeter eye, then somewhere in the vicinity of 17 to 19 eyelashes is probably what you're going to need. If it's an 18 millimeter eye, probably about 16 to 18 lashes on both upper and lower. I usually end up with about one more on the bottom than I have on the top, and the spacing usually works out pretty good. Just remember, you need to be having your corner one out here is going to end up almost perfectly straight, coming out to the top of the ear. It's going to come out and go straight back to the top of the ear here. Okay, now for the upper eyelashes, those I do a little bit differently. Okay, instead of pushing in, I'm just going to lay the brush with, again, about 1/3 of it inserted into the eye opening. I'm going to lay the brush right on the eyelid, and then I'm just going to press down and pull up with just the tip. And it might not completely make the eyelash. You'll be able to have a little hole there in the middle, just like I have here. So I'm actually going to take the brush, then go back in, go over it, and just go over that middle part. When I go to drag that brush, I might actually have to push the brush back just a little bit and then out in order to get that eyelash to connect. Even though your eyelashes are going to look a little strange looking at them this way, and they might not look as perfect as you want them to, make sure that you're actually looking at them turned up this way, because you'd be amazed at how good those eyelashes can look once they're in this position as opposed to looking at them this way, because a lot of that eye goes back in and is hid, behind the eyelid, and you don't see it as much. So as long as they look good when you're holding the head this way, don't worry so much as to whether they're perfect or not when you're looking at them this way. Okay, so same thing again. I'm going to go in. I'm going to space it apart. I want to be about 1 millimeter apart. I'm figuring out my spacing here. I'm laying the brush on the tip, with the tip inside the head, and I'm pulling very slowly that eyelash across there. Where it made the little skip there in the middle, I'm going to go back in, lay that brush on, and pull out again. May take a couple of times to reconnect that eyelash and get it, the length you want and filled in like you want, but that's okay. As long as you can match up the line and see it well enough, you can go over it several times. Try and get your color consistent to where you don't have to go over it the next time. You can, if you've got lightness and darkness, with your eyelashes and they're not all consistently the same black color, then go ahead the next time and darken up the lighter ones to even it all out to the same consistency of color. I prefer to try and get them all right the first time, because it's much easier than having to go back over some of the eyelashes the next time. But you can do it that way. Okay, then after you get totally done and get your eyelashes on there, I use the little bit thicker eyelash brush I've got, like I use for eyebrow hairs, and I go back in and rim the eye. You can either do that in this firing or you can do it in the next one. You wouldn't have to do it now. If you think there's a chance you might mess up your eyelashes, then don't do it now, wait until next time. Okay, but then to do the rimming, I'm just going to take the brush, lay it in there, and just draw it right around. You know, half of the brush is extended inside the eye opening. I'm just laying the middle of the bristle on there and running it all the way around that entire rim. If you don't feel comfortable enough doing it now, wait until the eyelashes are fired on and then go back in and do it the next time. Okay, let's see if there was anything else I wanted to tell you on eyelashes. Nothing that I can think of, so I think we're okay. Eyelashes are something that take a lot of time. They take a lot of practice. You know, after you've tried them, 4 or 5 times, you're much better off to settle with a little bit less perfection on your eyelashes than you are to frustrate yourself and keep taking them on and off so many times that you've got black smudges all the way around there. As long as you keep your eyelashes light and thin, you know, you don't want great big, hairy spider legs on here. Try and keep them as thin and fine as you can. Try and keep the color as consistent as you can, and try and keep your spacing as consistent as you can. And they don't have to be perfect to look nice. So, okay, go ahead and study the picture of your antique doll and try and get your eyelashes on. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.